So it seems it's another fairly big Warhammer 40K Codex release week. We've got Codex Chaos Knight, the new Knight Ruinator, and a rather curious Battleforce full of war dogs. Let's have a talk about what they've revealed. Hello and welcome back to Warspec Tactics, where today it seems we're talking Chaos Knights, and they're going to be the next codex to come out for Warhammer 40k. Games Workshop's just announced that they're going up for pre-order, along with a few other things. Chaos Knights are maybe a little bit of a surprise to have turn up at this point. This was the last calendar that Games Workshop gave us, a bunch of codexes built for now and then coming next, though given that the order that they came out on was World East and Death Guard first, then Thousand Suns, then Space Wolves, they're not necessarily going left to right, top to bottom or anything. If anything, I was suspecting that Grey Knights might get their release next, given that they were revealed alongside the Deity Legion codexes, but it seems that we're jumping straight into the Spiky Knights. Perhaps one of the slightly surprising things is that it seems they're not coming alongside the Imperial Knights, their Loyalist brothers and the Knight Defender being left till a later week. In any case, for this one, it does seem to be the things that were either expected or heavily rumoured. Codex Chaos Knights, a new Battleforce box set consisting entirely of war dogs, and the new Knight pattern for the Abhorrent kit in the Knight Ruinator. Games Workshop hadn't teased the War Dog Knight box set, but I had heard it quite a bit from multiple different sources. In any case, the pre-orders will be coming this week, so Saturday the 7th of June, so the full release will be Saturday the 21st of June. And that'll be when the box sets hit the shelves in local gaming stores and Games Workshop. The headline for the new release is the Knight Ruinator, basically a new kit in the standard Chaos Knight box set, and it builds this pattern one with the great big flamer and the siege drill. Then there's Codex Chaos Knights itself, plus a limited edition version as per normal, and then dice and datasheet cards as well. And the Knights don't generally tend to get Combat Patrol box sets, but there will be one of those limited edition Battleforce box sets to come out around Codex launch, and this one being the Houndpack Lance. As mentioned, it's maybe slightly surprising they're not with the Imperial Knights, given that they've tended to update them in tandem recently. They usually seem to have nothing against releasing two codexes at once, but for whatever reason they've decided to delay the Imperial Knights a bit once again. Though given that they're on the release calendar and they're a very similar codex, I guess they'll probably be either the next week or the one after. It looks like Games Workshop sanctioned content creators have already got copies of both codexes as well, given that Tabletop Tactics posted a Battleport preview of Imperial vs Chaos Knights and then took it down, which further implies that it was coming soon. Maybe Games Workshop were initially planning them to come out on the same day, but for whatever reason plans seem to have changed and the Imperials have been pushed back a little bit. As ever, if you're thinking about picking up any of the new releases, then feel free to check out the discount retailers link down in the video description. They can save some money versus Games Workshop, Element Games for 15% off in the UK, Gap Games for 21% in Australia, Fenris Workshop for 10% in Canada, Wargame Portal for 15% in the USA, and Tash and Galdeep for 16% off in the EU. A big thank you to anyone picking up stuff through them if you do happen to order things in. It does help to support Warspec Tactics if you use the links in the video description. Here are the pre-order times for when the box sets go live. Fingers crossed that Games Workshop give the discount stores enough of them. Supply on some of the box sets for some discount stores has been absolutely terrible recently. My guess is that they won't make too many of the big box sets. They'll probably try and be early if you want to have a chance. When any one store sells out of them, fall back to other ones out there, and then the Warhammer web store if loads of places are out. In any case, the pre-orders will be going live from Friday night to Saturday morning, midnight over in North America, then 10 AM in the UK, 11 AM in Western Europe, and midday Australian Eastern Time. Let's talk about the releases themselves though, and first up we have Codex Chaos Knights itself, likely to be £37, $60 or €47 if they're sticking to their normal Codex prices for 10th edition. I think the Codex cover is really quite a fun one, picturing a Knight Abominant fighting alongside some Chaos Space Marines and laying waste to all before it, I'm sure. I feel like this could potentially be a good thing for Chaos Knights players. It's been all very weird in 10th edition that Games Workshop just don't seem to have bothered to fix the faction's really glaring weakness, which is mainly that the best way to play the army is just War Dog spam, and generally that's been the strongest way to play them ever since the models came out all the way back in 9th edition. Just kind of weird for a problem that seemed like it could be so easily fixed just with a few points nudges. Maybe the combination of points changes plus the rules changes with new detachments might be enough to finally give the big boys a look in as the actual mainstay of your army as opposed to hangers-on. You also might have some rewritten unit profiles as well. In the past we'd seen some packaging updates with some rules changes that looked like they were aimed at the current codexes. Basically some of the bigger Knight chassis losing a bit of toughness but gaining some wounds. Changes that maybe I didn't really feel like were the end of the world really, and more of a side grade if anything. But until we see some previews, a little bit uncertain whether they're truly ones from the new codexes or they were just some old draft profiles or something. Weirdly enough, for the codex previews they haven't said the numbers of detachments for them yet. The Imperials are getting 4, so I'd guess that Chaos Knights might get the same. Part of me kind of wonders whether or not they're just not saying detachment numbers, as maybe it's only 3 or something and they think people will be annoyed. I guess either way we'll find out very shortly. They confirmed one of them will be War Dog themed as a detachment, and I think that one's kind of expected really. It's not like the Chaos Knights have loads of classes to play around with, so having a War Dog heavy one is entirely expected. Otherwise there's no combat patrol in the book. Instead they'll apparently have a bonus section on heraldry. Games Workshop did put up some Imperial Knight and Chaos Knight combat patrol rules on their download section in Warhammer community though. So if you want to use some Chaos Knights rules there, you basically use 2 War Dogs. And then for the number of datasheets in the book, there's apparently 12 of them. There's currently 10 in the index at the moment, so unfortunately, as per normal, it does mean there's no mass influx of all the Forge World patterns, though it'd be really nice to see the Lancer and friends gain Codex status. It does seem unlikely though. Though even so, that means that basically there's going to be 1 extra datasheet in the Codex compared with what we'd expect. Currently there's 10, the Ruinator will make it 11, and then there'll be 1 extra one of some sort. By far the most likely one for that seems like the split datasheet for the Knight Tyrant, having one with the Dark Flame Cannon and Harpoon, versus the great big range version that's the more sort of Castellan pattern. I think that'd be a nice idea, as they could have different points cost and special rules, though it still doesn't necessarily mean that the Harpoon and Thundercoil one will be strong. It's not like it's helped the Imperial Knight Valiant so much so far, but at least it might be a little bit easier and not have them both tied to the same points cost while they're both doing really quite different things. In any case, I guess with the rest of the codexes, Games Workshop will likely give us some previews as to the book over the course of the week. Rules and books aside, let's get on to models though, and the Knight Ruinator is going to be the new pattern of Chaos Knights for the army. Basically an extra sprue added into the Abhorrent/Abominant kit. When Games Workshop first revealed it, they said it was going to be boxed separately to the Abominant, but it seems that this one's actually just going to be an expansion of the same box set, a further sprue added in kind of similar to what the Imperials got with Canis Rex when he first came out. So if you buy a Chaos Knight box set like this, it'll be able to make the Abominant, the Rampager, the Desecrator, and now the Ruinator as well. That does make sense given that some of the parts pictured here appear to be from the Abominant sprue. In any case, the lore of this one is that it's a short-range butcher that set their sights on a given prey and then go and hunt it down. And to do that, they have a Dark Flame Lance, a great big massive flamethrower weapon, and then a brutal siege drill called a Fellbore. It also swaps out the sort of heraldic shield thing and the heavy stubber for some Terrapulse missiles, so a little bit more firepower coming out of those. Given it basically is the same model, it's not exactly hugely different to current Chaos Knights. Really quite a nice kit though in my opinion. Standard spiky knights with a whole bunch of chains and exposed machinery, and always quite a fun canvas for some mad conversions if you want to. It is maybe a shame that they didn't decide to add any extra aesthetic bits to it. They've decided just to swap out weapons here. I originally thought that the faceplate was new, but it's actually just an alternative option from the Abominant sprue. Previously, the Chaos Knight box set was £110, $178 or €145. I'd guess that the new one probably won't be too different to that price. There's pretty much zero chance it's going to be lower than that given it's Games Workshop, though it might hold the same price. As it's a new sprue added into the same box though, I think it's more likely to go up, at least by a little bit. Games Workshop haven't let us know the profiles for the weapons yet. I'm sure we'll get some sort of rules preview in the week to tell us. From the text teasers that we've had so far though, plus the general appearance of the weapons, I think we can infer really quite a lot. They said that the Dark Flame Lance was a match for the Knight Tyrant's 3-barreled one. That one strikes at 3d6 shots at strength 8, AP 1, damage 2 with torrent and ignores cover. Though admittedly we don't know the profile for it in the new Chaos Knight Codex. If it matches the sort of Acheron style one, I guess that'd be 2d6 shots at that similar sort of profile. Generally Knightly Flame weapons haven't really been very good in 10th edition though. They still kind of feel like they're costed for them to have Overwatch, which they can't do anymore. The Fellbore certainly got the appearance of a massive great big siege weapon. That'd usually imply just a few attacks but massive damage against enemy monsters and vehicles. It might just have enormous strength, AP and damage, or maybe some anti-keywords going on. I'm gonna guess it'll be far better against tough stuff as opposed to light infantry though. Finally, the Terrapulse missiles. Games Workshop gave us a few hints as to that. They said big enough to burst through a space marine, so that might mean mid-strength and damage too. And they also described them as pulverizing enemy morale. So maybe they'll tie in with a datasheet special rule, like one unit hit by Terrapulse missiles has to test battle shock or something. If that's right, then it could potentially tie in with the army rule well enough. Otherwise though, from the lore that they gave it, it seems very likely that another one of its special rules will be a quarry style special rule. We've seen lots of units that basically get to pick a target at the start of the game, get some sort of big damage boost against it, and then if that target dies, then they get to pick a new target to go after, and that just seems really likely if they're going to give it that kind of lore. I'd say that's more likely to be a datasheet weakness versus a strength though. Maybe handy for the games where your opponent's got a really big threat that they can't afford to have hang back, but certainly gives you some counterplay if they're able to just keep that unit away from this knight and send something else to try and fight the Ruinator. Obviously its strength will depend mainly on points cost. Any datasheet could be good or bad based on points. I must admit though, based on what we've heard so far about its loadout and special rules, I'm not hugely optimistic. Guns that are sort of close range and deal with light infantry, and then melee that specialises in anti-vehicles only, maybe doesn't give me quite so much hope it's going to be really general purpose. That's all speculation at this point though. Next up, we've got the dice and data cards. Typical dice prices tend to be £19, €24 or $33. The datasheet cards a little bit more than that, though perhaps they'll charge less for the Chaos Knights ones if they've got so few of them, who knows. The dice are themed for House Herpatrax apparently, so sort of white pearly dice with green symbols. They look fun enough, but maybe not quite as faction generalised as some dice out there. Finally, we have the Curious Battleforce in the Houndpack Lance, and as mentioned, this one's a slightly odd one, basically a Battleforce box set containing 7 War Dogs. So essentially 3.5 of that kit, and it is the standard Chaos Knight one that builds the Brigand, Carnivore or Stalker pattern. There aren't any of the Huntsman or Executioner ones that are the more loyalist kits mixed in. Based on Games Workshop's recent Battleforce prices, this will likely be either $210 or $240. That's based on the ones that we had for the Deity Legion codexes, so somewhere in the region of either €170 to €185 or £135 to £150. If I find out a more definite price though, I'll certainly post it. It likely means discount somewhere in the region of 28% or 37% or so. This will either be on the slightly upper end or slightly lower end for Games Workshop discount kits, depending on what we find out to be the final price. It's certainly an odd one, spamming these small knights, and I'll probably follow this one up with a short video focusing specifically on the Houndpack Lance. It certainly seems useful to have a big direct discount on a model that's been really important for the faction so far. It just might not be a box set that appeals quite so much to existing collectors, if there's a good chance they might already have enough War Dogs that this will put them for too many. Let me know your initial impressions on it down in the comments though. In any case, that means that the Imperial Knights shouldn't be too far behind, as we know they're going to be getting the Knight Defender, bristling with high-tech weapons with the Conversion Beamer and the big plasma cannon, and then shielding knights nearby, and then some new detachments for the army. I guess if there's any major profile changes though, we'll hear about it first for the Chaos Knights. Let me know your thoughts on the Chaos Knight release down in the comments below though. Let me know your thoughts and hopes and fears for the Codex. What do you make of the Ruinator and the box set? And as mentioned, if you did want to pick up any of the stuff, feel free to check out the discount links in the video description when the orders go live from this weekend, from Friday night through to Saturday morning. A big thank you to anyone helping out the channel through those. Feel free to subscribe to Allspecs Tactics if you'd like to see more like this though. As mentioned, I'll do a more dedicated video for the War Dog box shortly, and I'll certainly be looking to cover Chaos Knight previews and the full Codex when we get information of them in the week. As well as the discount links, if you'd like to help support Allspecs Tactics and keep these videos coming, then I'll just mention that the channel has a Patreon page as well. You can find that links down in the video description below. Channel patrons get a few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.